November 28, 1973. Somewhere over the southern Soviet Union, thousands of feet above Soviet Armenia, a Soviet fighter pilot has just fired both his missiles and missed. His cannon has jammed. He has nothing left. The aircraft he is chasing is faster than his own. It is pulling away. In 90 seconds, it will cross back into friendly airspace, taking with it the cameras, the codes, and the photographs the Soviet Union does not want anyone to see. And then his ground controller gives him an order that almost no fighter pilot in history has ever received. In 1968, the Central Intelligence Agency, the Defense Intelligence Agency, the National Security Agency, the United States Air Force, and the Imperial Iranian Intelligence Service, SAVAK, quietly created a joint operation. Its code name was Project Dark Gene. Its purpose was simple and almost unbelievable. Iranian Air Force aircraft with mixed crews of American and Iranian officers would deliberately fly into Soviet airspace. They would draw out Soviet radar, force the launch of Soviet missiles, photograph the air defenses as they activated, and run for the border before they could be shot down. The cover story was built in from the beginning. If anything went wrong, the explanation was already prepared. The Americans were merely instructors. The Iranian crew got lost in bad weather, navigational error, sincere apologies, please return our men. The Soviets understood exactly what was happening. They could not prove it without admitting how often their own airspace was being violated. Both sides played the game in silence. By 1971, up to 2 of these missions were being flown every month. By 1973, the Americans and Iranians had built one of the most productive intelligence operations of the Cold War. And almost nobody in either country had any idea it existed. Then came November 28. To understand why the United States was running spy flights from Iranian soil, you have to understand what Iran was to America in 1973. It was not an adversary. It was, geographically, one of the most valuable allies the West possessed. Iran shared a 1,500-mile border with the Soviet Union. From Iranian territory, American reconnaissance aircraft could reach Soviet missile test sites in Kazakhstan, nuclear facilities in the Urals, and the long-range radar installations the CIA could not see by any other means. There was only one problem. American aircraft penetrating Soviet airspace would be an act of war. The U-2 shoot-down in 1960, when Francis Gary Powers was captured, had taught Washington that lesson permanently. After 1960, no American-flagged aircraft would knowingly cross that border again. Iranian aircraft, however, with Iranian markings and Iranian pilots, could be denied, so the deal was struck. Iran would provide the aircraft, the pilots, and the bases. America would provide the equipment, the training, and the intelligence officers in the backseat. And every now and then, an Iranian Phantom would wander into Soviet airspace by mistake. On November 28, 1973, one of them did not come back the way it was supposed to. The aircraft was an RF-4C Phantom, the reconnaissance version of the F-4, stripped of weapons and packed with cameras and sensors. In the front cockpit was Major Mohammad Shukounia of the Imperial Iranian Air Force, a veteran pilot with hundreds of hours on the Phantom. In the back, in the seat normally occupied by a weapons officer, was United States Air Force Colonel John Saunders. Saunders was the man who knew the cameras. He knew the codes. He knew the target list. He was the reason the mission existed. They had crossed the border somewhere south of the Caspian Sea. They had photographed what they came to photograph, and now they were running for home at Mach 1.4, nearly 1,500 miles per hour, faster than any Soviet fighter then in widespread service could match. There was one exception. From Vaziani Air Base, in what was then Soviet Georgia, a single MiG-21 was scrambled to intercept. In its cockpit was Captain Gennady Eliseyev, 35 years old, deputy commander of a squadron in the 982nd Fighter Aviation Regiment. The MiG-21 he was flying was a newer variant, fast enough just barely to catch a Phantom at full speed. Eliseyev pushed it to its limit. He closed the gap. At supersonic speed, with both aircraft pulling vapor trails, Eliseyev fired his first missile, an R-3S heat seeker. The Phantom's rear seat officer, Colonel Saunders, deployed flares. The missile lost lock and detonated harmlessly in the Phantom's wake. Eliseyev fired a second. The Phantom broke hard, dumping speed and twisting violently. The missile missed. Both missiles gone. The hard brake had cost the Phantom speed. The MiG closed faster than Shikunya could recover. Eliseyev rolled in behind it, pressed the trigger on his cannon, and nothing happened. The GSH-23 autocannon had jammed. Eliseyev had no weapons left. The Phantom was 90 seconds from the border. The intelligence on board would be in American hands by sunset. The pilot radioed his ground controller and reported what he had, or rather, what he didn't have. Soviet pilots had used ramming attacks during the Second World War. It was an act of last resort, accepted in Soviet doctrine as a one-for-one trade, but this was 1973. Jet aircraft, supersonic speed. The kind of collision being ordered was something no pilot had ever survived. Captain Eliseyev acknowledged the order. Ground control advised him to clip the Phantom's tail with his wing, a glancing blow that might give him a chance to eject. Eliseyev decided otherwise. He brought his MiG up from below and to the left and aimed the nose of his fighter directly at the Phantom's engines. The collision happened at supersonic speed. Eliseyev's last radio transmission, recorded by Soviet ground control, was 3 words. The MiG-21 disintegrated. Captain Gennady Eliseyev was killed instantly. The Phantom, with its tail severed and its engines destroyed, rolled inverted and began a high-speed descent toward the Soviet ground. Major Shikunya and Colonel Saunders ejected. They drifted down in their parachutes into the territory of the country they had just been spying on. They were picked up by Soviet border guards within minutes. What happened next was extraordinary, not because of what either government did, because of what they did not say. Iran had captured American officers in Soviet uniform before, figuratively speaking. The Cold War was full of incidents like this. What made this one different was that, almost at the same moment, Shikunya and Saunders were being processed by Soviet border guards. A Soviet reconnaissance satellite was completing the wrong end of its own mission. Soviet spy satellites in this era did not transmit their photographs electronically. They could not. The technology did not yet exist to send high-resolution images by radio. Instead, the satellites carried physical film canisters, which, at the end of a mission, were ejected from orbit and parachuted back to Earth, where Soviet recovery teams collected them. On or near November 28th, one of those canisters did not come down where it was supposed to. It landed on the wrong side of the border, specifically on an oil field outside Abadan in Iran. The Soviets had 2 prisoners. They wanted their film back. The Iranians and the Americans had a Soviet film canister. they wanted their men back. Within weeks, the trade was made. Quietly, without press releases, without public statements. Major Shkunia and Colonel Saunders flew home. The Soviet film canister, with whatever photographs it contained, returned to Moscow. Neither government acknowledged that any of it had ever happened. The world did not learn about the ramming for years, about the trade for decades. Captain Gennady Eliseev was posthumously named a hero of the Soviet Union on December 14, 1973, 16 days after his death. A memorial to him stands today in the city of Volgograd, formerly Stalingrad. The Soviet Air Force quietly studied his ramming as a tactical case. They concluded that no future pilot should be ordered to do what he had done. The order was never given again. Major Mohammad Shkunia returned to flying duty in the Imperial Iranian Air Force. He survived the ramming. He survived Soviet captivity. He survived the Iranian Revolution 6 years later, which removed the government he had served. He continued to fly. In 1982, during the Iran-Iraq War, Major Shkunia was shot down by a MiG-21. A different MiG, a different war. He did not survive that one. Colonel John Saunders returned to the United States Air Force. His career continued. The details of his 90 seconds in the back seat of an Iranian Phantom over Soviet airspace did not appear in his service record. Project Dark Gene continued operating for several more years. After Shkunia and Saunders were returned, the program was tightened. The cover stories were rewritten. The flights continued. It only ended in 1979 when the Iranian Revolution swept the Shah from power. Overnight, the country that had been America's closest ally on the Soviet Union's southern border became its loudest adversary. The aircraft America had given Iran, including its most advanced fighter jets, stayed in Iran. The intelligence cooperation ended. The flights stopped. The whole arrangement, decades of secret cooperation, simply ceased to exist. This is what the Cold War actually looked like. Not the speeches, not the headlines. This